Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's already September here, which means we're coming close to the end of our gardening season here in Wisconsin, but everything still looks amazingly beautiful. And I'm really excited to share that with you today. So let's go ahead and get started so you can see what everything looks like near the end. These are the front yard oddball containers is kind of what I'd call them. I know I showed you guys these when I planted them early in the season. That's why I felt like I really needed to do this final share before everything starts getting kind of to the point where it doesn't look as pretty. We still got another good week, so I think that these will look nice for quite a while still, but you know, in September you just never know what you're gonna get in Wisconsin in any part of the Midwest. I think you guys remember when I planted these, I put in those, everyone started calling them, they just look like one tube of eucalyptus. It was just like one eucalyptus growth, that's it. It wasn't anything spectacular at all, but I just wanted to show how amazing those eucalyptus got in these front yard containers. And as you can see, it's almost like this little secret garden coming up onto this front step here. It's like almost like a eucalyptus gate, and it's kind of funny to see anyone come up onto the front porch because they have to like walk through it, and it ends up smelling amazing, and when it rubs on you, you can really smell that eucalyptus. And I just really wanted to share how awesome that was, because as these grew too, another funny thing, this is kind of funny because I cut some hybrid willow trees. We talk about those a lot on our channel, and I had some old branches that I cut. I didn't think they were living still, so I used them as kind of like a stake inside of the container just to hold these eucalyptus as they grew. And what is super crazy is that those hybrid willow sticks turned into hybrid willow trees inside of this container. So I think at the end of the year we're going to just cut this out and plant it somewhere else and then just let it grow, because we've got one on each side. So this one started growing in, and then the eucalyptus kind of like dropped off the side a little bit, but I like that cool habit. And I think these eucalyptus are going to be ones that we cut out of this container and this one to bring into the greenhouse, because they're growing so beautiful and full and they smell so good. But let's also take a look at these awesome millet grasses. These are self-seeded. And as you can see, all of these amazing seeds, these are also natural bird feeders. And this is where a lot of the small birds, such as finches, come. They land to eat the millet seed here. Oh, Fuzzy. What's going on? You want to come outside? Like I was saying, so the little birds, like the finches, they land on here and they eat right off of these. So that's why we like to tend to put millet near the house in areas where we can see them feeding, because they'll feed on them till this is bare and gone. But I do come out here, I cut one of these, I let it sit in the house for a few days, and then I start kind of just, I guess you could call it shelling or shucking, whatever you want to call it. The seeds will come right off then once it's like nice and dry. And then I store them in a nice, cool, dry place, which for us is our basement. I know a lot of basements can, you know, carry some moisture, but ours really doesn't, because I also store them in paper folders and then within a bin on top of that. We also just have some seeded gomphrena. So this isn't any, you know, brand gomphrena. This is just your regular seeded gomphrena. The seeds are always inexpensive, they're easy to germinate, and whenever I seed them, I don't just put one seed per plug, I put multiple seeds per plug, so you get a nice full plant. And then here's those really beautiful snapdragons. I talked about the trailing effect of snapdragons early on, and I talked about how they come down, they fall down like a waterfall, and then they reach for the sun with their beautiful flowers, and that's what they're doing right here. Aren't those just gorgeous? The tall growing snaps don't have to just be for cut flowers. They can be in your container. And remember how I planted them towards the side. And when I planted them, I also snipped that tip of the plant, so that way it grew out super bushy. And then it grew outward. That way it's not growing upward. But now, as you can see, this is what it does. It has a beautiful trailing effect. I've been doing this for years. I've been sharing it, trying to see if anyone else is going to try it one of these days. So I think this might show you guys a little bit better how awesome those are. We also have the beautiful lantanas, trailing petunias. We got the sun patience, a French quarters coleus. I think, wait, no, that one's not French quarters. That one's, I think, Main Street ruby. So these were ones I really wanted to show since I showed you those early on. And then also the containers by the door. Some of my coleus is starting to split a little bit, but that's okay, it's doing okay. But as you can see, these are the cut flower kales, the crane reds. So they grow up tall, but I really love using them in containers because they come out really cool. And with the cooler nights now, it's still warm during the days right now, but during the cooler nights and the cooler season, these kales start getting their more pink and reddish coloring. So as you can see, it's looking really nice. So with the kales, you get a lot of those little white moths around them, and they lay their eggs, which then create worms, which create all kinds of holes, and all the leaves get eaten. And what I use on that is Monterey or crop control trifecta. So either one. They're organic, but you may want to alternate, see what works for you. And always remember, when you're going to spray something like that, go later in the day when it no longer has any sunlight, or wait for the area to get shade so that we don't get any burning. And always check it, like test it on a couple leaves first, because you never know. But the trifecta and the trifecta crop control and the Monterey, it's the end of the day, you guys. I've had a long day today. But those two work really good on the flowering kale, and any kale, really. It works really, really good on that. And then the front yard garden here this year, this was even prettier like a couple to 3 weeks ago. More colors from the echinacеas. The echinacеas are kind of starting to fade out a little bit. Look at all those gorgeous grasses and those sedums. These are one of my favorite perennials because they really hold their shape even all winter, and they do pop up from the ground in spring, and they pop up very quickly, so it's not like you go a long time without having any shape or form within this garden from this variety, which is the Autumn Joy. And these are gorgeous miscanthus grasses, and they are starting to kind of cover that window box area, which I discussed this all in detail in the beginning of the season when I planted these window boxes and what I expected out of the grasses this year and the reason for our combos this year. So you can catch that video as well here on the channel from the beginning. It's on the front yard garden tour, and we'll go right into these window boxes next. But I also wanted to just share these hydrangeas over here. These are the limelight hydrangeas, and they are just huge and beautiful. Jason just had to clean up. We had a dead shrub, so we've been kind of cleaning this up over in this area here. This is like that secret garden area, like the secret garden before it got renewed, because I planted this garden a long time ago just to get some things established, and we've allowed it to get established but haven't done anything with it yet. So this is kind of like a part of our property where we don't really pay too much attention, but I also wanted this area to be one of those spaces because it becomes really hard to manage the amount of gardens that we have already. But I just love how huge they got, because it's like coming into like this little secret path, because behind that front garden is the path to the window boxes here. And if you watch that other video, you'll kind of understand why we planted things the way we did this year, and how we knew that these get as tall as they do. They keep getting bigger and bigger every year, but they are amazing and I love them. But I did these little peek hole areas of the window box. As you can see, I'm going to back up here a little bit, but to break up all of these grasses, see, I have this line of grasses. This line comes all the way around, but as you notice, I have a peekaboo station, a peekaboo station on these window boxes here, just so that way you can see them. But I have to say, the summerific hibiscus, this color is the evening rose, has gotten so huge, and it has so many flowers, not at this specific moment, but it blooms the most in the sun, and it is just filled every single day. It has been amazing for like the past like month and a half. It has been just outperforming every other year so far. But look at how gorgeous that flower is. It's just amazing. And they're usually filled with all of these throughout the day, but by nighttime, they kind of start closing up, and then there's just more the next day. So right now, the grasses look nice over on this side of the front door in this garden. And we've got the Russian sage and the lavender. This is its second round. This is the Sweet Romance lavender. It's one of those that I really love for bundles, oils, you know, making your teas, whatever you want to do with lavender, making your own soaps. Like, this variety does smell amazing, and it's really nice because it basically gives us blooms twice a season. And I don't know if you guys remember, but we had a magnolia tree over here. It was right there, and it got some weird thing on it, so we had to cut it down. And so next year we're going to work on digging these two up on the turret here, and we're going to take these two out of there. They got bigger than what we thought. We didn't really realize they'd get that big, so we're going to get those out of there so that way it doesn't cover up the house. And I don't know, probably do something different right where that magnolia was. I guess we'll see. So now I'm going to show you a little bit more in depth on our front yard window boxes. I think that this is probably one of my least favorite combos, and I'll explain why. But there are some of my favorite varieties that I found that I truly love in this combination. So these window boxes this year ended up getting a really odd shape. They look okay right now, but about a month and a half ago, they were absolutely stunning and gorgeous. I mean, I'm so happy that they have popped back, but what was really weird, and there was no storm or heavy rains or anything, but all of this was laying flat. Everything in the window box was laying flat, and we had beautiful bundles of millet perfectly placed in the back, and they were all broken, and there was a lot of breakage along the floor in here, even from these hibiscus here. So it was really weird, almost like as if there's like an animal or something like that over here. So what I had to do is I had to actually cut it back and down and remove all of the dead stuff. And just now, a month and a half later, everything is starting to look a little bit better. But I do have some favorites in this combination here. One of them obviously is lantana. You know, I mean, you just can't go wrong with that luscious berry blend. It's so pretty. Look at those colors. It's so magical, and the hummingbirds really love that. And I love how they start out solid right here, and then they kind of turn into more of a color. If you can see even over here, they're starting out as a solid color, and then they gradually move into their coloring there. And I also added in some Zahara zinnias, which are also an easy seeded annual for you guys. Zahara carries a really nice mid-height and full bushy shape, so it makes it perfect for containers, and it stays flowering the whole season. Look at how it's filled with flowers, and it still has even more buds. So these come in a few different colors and a mixture color. Super easy, just like any other zinnia to seed. You can never go wrong with Bermuda Beach or the Vista Paradise here. It always adds that perfect bright color for a trailing petunia, but I absolutely love this Kufia this year. This one here is called Sweet Talk, Sweet Pink, or Deep Pink, and it just adds so much color into the container. It has that perfect bright pink color with that little purple center, and there's just so many blossoms and blooms on it. I mean, it's all throughout here. Usually for me, Kufia isn't as colorful, doesn't have as many blossoms as this at once, at least for me. Everybody is different, and this year was an odd growing season for sure, but I never thought that Kufia would be my absolute favorite in this combination. Another really cool thing is if you go by some of the dead flowers, you will find quite a few seeds. These things drop a lot of seeds. So I'm going to try to gather some of these seeds and seed them myself next year. Now, sometimes with some of these varieties, they may not turn out exactly the way that they are. I've never tried this variety and seeding it myself, so I'm curious to see if it would somehow transform back to an original variety or if it would stay the same, because I'm not really sure if it's like some form of like a hybrid or what. Who knows, you know? So I guess we'll have to see. And I always do like that skyscraper orange salvia, but I don't love it in this window box. I feel like it's almost too airy for a height. I like something solid, you know, like a canna or a grass. And this plectranthus here too also got pretty heavy, whereas I would probably keep that more towards the front rather than the back so it doesn't like lay heavy on other things, because I did have to snip this one a lot in order to control it, because all it wanted to do was take over everything growing off the front within the medium heights and the trailers. As you can see over in this window box, I left it and didn't trim it as much, just so that way you could kind of see the difference over time. And so you can see how it just kind of fell forward, but then started just growing right off of the front there. All right, let's head off to another part of the garden and I'll show you guys what's going on here, what it looks like.